This is a test. This is a test. Travel the Blacological Underground Radio Network at blackology.com. The journey to liberate the black mind. May the content of your character be the knowledge of your culture.
The way of Blacology. If I speak in the languages of other cultures and assimilate to their ways, but have not cultural apprehension, I am a copycat or a second-class citizen. If I have their theories, philosophies, and beliefs, and can quote all their great men, and have studied all their sciences so as to perpetuate their culture, but have not a sense of my own cultural solidarity, I am walking the path of least existence. If I throw away all my heritage and hold up the heritage of other cultures, but have not any consciousness of my own, I gain nothing. Blackology is patient and kind. It is not jealous or boastful. It is not ashamed of its history. It is productive and creative. It does not rejoice at self-hatred. It rejoices in unity. It bears all its people. It believes in all its people. It has hope for the future. It knows what the people need and what they want. It endures all struggles. Blackology never ends. As for assimilation, it will pass away. As for other cultures, they will cease. For their theories, philosophies are imperfect, and their second-class citizenship is imperfect. But when Blackology comes, their imperfections will pass away. When I was a slave, I spoke as a slave. I dreamed as a slave. I thought as a slave. I reasoned as a slave. I acted like a slave. When I became emancipated and free, I gave up my slave mentality. For now, we must acknowledge the need of Blackology. But then we wore masks. Now I have knowledge of self and equality. Then I was afraid. Even as I understand the need of cultural science, I know I must be understood. So I say to myself, it must be worth fighting for. It must be worth living for. It must be worth dying for. Abide, be free. But the greatest is to die. If a black man or woman has not found something worth dying for, he or she is not fit to live. Brothers and sisters, Blackology is the ancestral gift to black culture. Also, Humana, cross.
Blackology, a cultural science, an ideal whose time has come. From the wisdom of the ancestors, Blackology. every voice can sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmony of liberty. Rejoice in the as a distant sky. Let it read loud as it goes on. See time, time, time. Let I rejoice in has come God of voice of tears, thou who hast brought us thus far away, thou who hast found my voice in keep us that's what we listen to the light. That's what we of the flame of God and show and see children and heaven. Children ring with the harmony. This is Blackologist Professor Croce, UBZD, coming to you from Washington, D.C. metropolitan area in Prince George County, Maryland, the most prosperous black county in the nation. So it is said. We are here today to bring to you the Blacological Underground Radio Network. This radio network is based on the proposition of the development of the cultural science of Blackology. We're here to bring to you today the ideal of developing, inventing, creating intellectual cultural science for jobs, careers, and entrepreneurship for the Black culture. All of the scholars and the ancestors have said that the way to our future, to a better way of life, is through education. Indeed, this is true, but not just in education, but a specific, subjective, direct education. As a Blackologist, my vision, my job, my service to you is to build for you an intellectual cultural science so that we will be able to have a cultural commerce so that we will be able to work teaching our culture, our experience, our uncompromising struggle to our children and ourselves and the unborn generations yet to come. We come to you today not as a sociologist, not as a psychologist, nor as an anthropologist. As a matter of fact, we do not come to you from any of the urological fields of studies. Blackology is defined as the scientific study of the evolution of Black African people and their culture. It is the perpetuation and utilization of the ideals, philosophies, theories, beliefs, concepts, and notions of our past and present life experience, and the spirit of our uncompromising struggle as our cultural knowledge. It is also the acclamation, affirmation, declaration, and proclamation of intellectual genius, creativity, and the Black story. Holistically, it is the manifestation of an authentic, autonomous, applied, Blacological, intellectual, cultural science, education, commerce. What are we talking about? We are talking about jobs, careers, entrepreneurship. We're talking about making degrees from preschool to the doctorates. We're talking about building the University of Black African Culture, as well as providing jobs and careers in this field of study right here in Prince George County. If we just take Prince George County, just this locality, the potential of Blackology and its entrepreneurial job vision is such. There are 205 schools in Prince George County. It is a Black market. It is 80 to 100% Black children in the schools. If we just put 3 Blackologists in them 205 schools, we will have 615 career positions and jobs. And we're just talking about those who can teach, that have been doing the work, that have the degrees, that can't find jobs because with a degree today, you're overqualified. If you got a bachelor's and a master's, nobody wants to hire you. If you got a doctorate's degree, you're working, if you just graduated from school, maybe as an adjunct. There's not much money that the adjunct could make, but because we are inspired by our gifts and our talents and our self-determination to be able to use those gifts and talents, we work as adjuncts or whatever we can do to make things better for ourselves and our people. But we just talked about Prince George County. If we go right to Washington, D.C., there's another 202 jobs. 3 Blackologists in this Black market, which is 80 to 90% Black population, students attending Washington, D.C. schools. If we just put 3 Blackologists in those schools, from 1 to 100%, all Black children need their culture. They need to know about who they are. They need to be able to call off some of the names of African people in some of the languages. They need to be able to speak about themselves with dignity, honor, respect, tradition, and values. But if we just put 3 of them, we got 606 career positions. And if we go over to Northern Virginia, there's another 202 schools. We're talking another 606 with a population, a black market from 1 to 100%. We're talking about in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, Northern Virginia, PG County, and Washington, D.C. We're talking about 1,800 career positions. We ain't even talking about book sales and, you know, clerical personnel and, you know, individuals to, you know, do the maintenance to keep the departments clean. And, you know, those are the things we're not even talking about. But we're talking about 1,800 positions. And here's an even broader picture. In the United States of America, there is 205,000 schools. If you just place 3 Blackologists in their 205,000 schools, you will have 615,000 career positions. Give or take here, a few here and there. But this is what our goal is, to build this intellectual science so that we can be able to provide jobs for those who are already doing the work, who already got the degrees. We can build a university. That's another 35,000 jobs. So what are we talking about? We're talking about doing the work that's necessary so that we will be able to employ ourselves in our own culture, and we won't have to go outside of our culture taking jobs from others. So we are talking about building on this Blacological underground network. Blackology, intellectual cultural science. Now we're going to talk about the Blacological Principal Statement, where we stand, what we want. While reading the book To Die for the People by Huey P. Newton, I read the 10-point program of the Black Panther Party for self-defense. What Blacological research revealed is that the 10-point program was and is a statement of principle. After reading this book, I was inspired to write the Blacological Principle Statement for the Blackology Research and Development Institute, quote unquote BRDI, a cultural science. I had read this book before in 1988, but I was not as settled in my vision of Blackology. I knew that I was a Blackologist, but I was in the stage of gathering information and did not gain the knowledge that was received in this semester of 2002. The stage of Blackology at this point is to institutionalize the knowledge of Black culture. This book is helping to organize and structure the cultural science of Blackology. It has also provided insight into the vision of Blackology. Every Black institution should have a 10-point agenda or program. This will help to provide the discipline that is necessary in developing your vision and cultural obligations. The message I received was to maintain our original vision. Blackologically, the use of cultural knowledge is the key to our success. As long as Blackological scholars keep in mind the redevelopment of Black African culture, there will be much success. The Blacological Principal statement is as follows. 1. We want the freedom to utilize our Black knowledge to be creative, productive, and develop our autonomous Blackological evolutionary cultural science. There is a myth that only Europeans can create or develop interdisciplinary science. Also, that only Europeans have the intellectual ability to produce sciences. In the past, Black African scholars have been steered towards the fields of sociology, psychology, anthropology, and other urological studies, without the consideration of their own innovative, authentic, monolithic, intellectual genius and creativity. The acronym I am encouraged of Black African scholars. It has been assumed by Black people and insinuated by Europeans that the magnitude of Blackological creative genius can only be to acquire a European study, whether it is from the West or in the origins of the European world. The control of the Black mind is the asset and resource of Black scholars, and it is an instrument in the advancement of their culture. There must be further study. It is the only means by which Black African scholars can obtain an economic foundation for their establishment of their own academic and intellectual field of study. This is a field that was and has not been embarked upon by the established intellectual entrepreneurs. We want the power to develop the magnitude and destiny of Blackological thought. 2. As Blackological scholars, we want full intellectual studies and professional employment for our cultural scientists and those who strive to achieve and develop this science. We want to develop professional and academic careers in the field of Blackology. We want to educate and train Blackological scholars from preschool to the doctoral level in public and private educational systems. We also want to own and operate our own public and private school systems. This will provide jobs, careers, and professions of full employment in the field of Blackology. It has been traditional that Black people who graduate from white institutions receive privilege over Black people who graduate from HBCUs. Also, Black scholars who graduate from white institutions also receive privilege over Black scholars who graduate from HBCUs at HBCUs for employment, not based on better merit, but on the fact that they graduated from white institutions. This institutional racism must stop. We want the commerce and entrepreneurship of Black knowledge to be controlled by a Blackological science. There must be further study. 3. We want to end the marginalization of Black scholars and their creative genius in the Black African culture and institutions of higher learning by the perpetration perpetration of urological studies as the only curriculum and superior thought. There is an unwritten, inhumane law of racism, white supremacy in the United States and throughout the European world that states this is how it works. White supremacy, privilege distribution scale. If you are white, you are right. If you are passing, you're right. If you are damn near white, you got height. If you are yellow, you might. If you are light, you might. If you are biracial, you okay. If you are multiracial, you are okay. If you are a minority, you are acceptable. If you are a second class citizen, you are accommodated. If you are yellow, you are mellow. If you are red, the reservation is your way to get ahead. If you are brown, stick around. If you are black, get back. And in our black experience and in our black culture, this privilege distribution scale also is perpetrated. This law has been in operation since the beginning of the perpetration and perpetuation of Eurological cultural supremacy over 400 years. According to Joe Madison, in this world, in the United States, black people and white people have been urologically taught that white people are superior and black people are inferior. The manifestation of this is that black people are underestimated, marginalized, and devalued. And you can find an example of it every day. When you teach urological studies at HBCUs and private public schools as mandatory courses and superior knowledge, then you teach that black knowledge is inferior and should not be taught or should only be taught as an elective. This is urological cultural supremacy. Blacological research has revealed to study urological studies is to retrogress in the development of Blacological thought. To study urological studies as the basis and foundation of your knowledge is to surrender to the perpetration of urological scholarship as superior to my own cultural intellectual integrity. In the research of Blackology, it has revealed that to study European culture as the basis of your knowledge is to stagnate the growth of the innovative, authentic, monolithic, intellectual, creative genius of all Black African culture and its people. To be forced to study urological studies against my will is a violation of my beliefs and a violation of my human rights. It is also the perpetuation of stigmatic injury and a violation of my rights as a human being. This will cause retrogression in my intellectual growth as a Blackological scholar. This is the promotion of urological cultural supremacy and the marginalization of Blackological cultural thought. It is also ethnic cleansing, a violation of the Geneva Convention 1948 Human Rights Act. This causes a problem of retention by forced indoctrination of the accepting of the devaluing of Blackological knowledge. This is parallel to teaching a Jew that Hitler is greater and superior thinker than Jewish scholars. We cannot perpetuate our own dehumanization. We must protest this by refusing to study these subjects and request an assignment by Black scholars when we are being taught in these urological fields. 4. We want to be able to house the cultural science of Blackology in the University of Black African Culture with facilities fit for scientific research and study. We believe that white universities are not responsible to give decent, decent honor and respect to Black African culture. It is the collaboration of HBCUs, Black businesses, and Black scholars who must govern and build the Blackological studies for preservation and perpetuation of Blacological cultural knowledge. This institution must be financed by tax dollars of Black people in the United States. Every year, Black people pay taxes for housing, education. This is a venue for which we want to seek our financial grants and subsidies to build our University of Black African Culture, Blacology Institute. We want Blackology to be taught, first of all, in Black preschools, grammar schools, junior high school, and HBCUs, independent Black schools, and African centered schools. We also want to have control over these careers and academic positions, as well as the determination of cultural curriculums, literature, and material. We want Blackology Research and Development Institute to be the institution that trains these professionals. As citizens of the United States, we have contributed much in the past and current prosperity of this country, and we request that the U.S. government provide the funding for this Blackological cultural science, as we said, from our own tax dollars. The status of Black people at the present time continues to be a composition of meager returns for a wealth of contributions over 400 years, 200 years in excess of the 200th anniversary of the U.S. Constitution, made in spite of forces of slavery, segregation, poverty, discrimination, brutality, death, Jim Crow, and racism. As the U.S. Constitution is examined and magnified by Black people, must not forget that this nation is indebted to us for 250 years of enslavement and over a century of racism, discrimination, poverty, and omission since slavery. 6, we want Afrocentricity, African-centered education, and the cultural science of Blackology, as well as Blackological academic entrepreneurial system for our people that is owned, operated by Blackological scholars. We want our children to know that Black knowledge is economically viable and achievable. We want our intellectual entrepreneurial system to reflect our uncompromising struggle for justice in the past, present, and future perspectives. We want a Blackological cultural commerce. We believe that an educational system that is not specific in its vision and origin as to whom it is developed for cannot serve our needs. Then that education does not and will not be applicable to the needs and redemption of Black people and the redevelopment of their culture. It is incumbent that after all the captivity of 300 years and the denial of Black African culture for over 450 years, we must have a Blackological intellectual entrepreneurial system and a cultural science commerce that is designed to meet our specific needs. 7, we want all Black people to be eligible to acquire an education at Blackology and in all the HBCUs without qualifying by or for a SAT, ACT, or GRE examination or any other urological method of elimination. We believe that black people should not be examined or eliminated from education or forced to take a test to prove you want to study black African culture. We do not believe that black people should have to compete for a position at HBCUs for in education in black African culture. We want to put an end to this competition for college education. We want to educate all those black people who want to get an education in black culture. We believe that the government should pay for this cultural education. We believe that the United States Education Department should fund Blackology or fund a Blacological education department operated by black scholars. The United States funds ROTC programs at HBCUs. Why can't it fund a Blacological cultural science education commerce owned and operated by black African scholars? 8, we want an immediate end to the white supremacy training of black police officers on black college campuses and in our neighborhoods. We want the immediate end to stop the training of shooting black targets by black and white police. We want the unjust practice of black and white officers taking black students to jail for minor crimes and torts only because they cannot take white students to jail to stop. If an officer has only arrested black students, she cannot work in or at HBCUs nor in the black community. We want every HBCU police security department to be educated in blackology and to be encouraged to achieve an education in blackology. We believe that the training of white supremacy is infested in law enforcement training. The most obvious of this training is the practice of shooting black targets. Blackologically, this training conditions police, both blacks and whites, to be systematically and pathological in the use of violence when it comes to black people. See research on Black Target, White Target by blackologist Cross and Dr. A.M.D. Sirleaf at blackology.com. We believe that the training of white supremacy was established in the 1900s and has not changed in the law enforcement field. We believe that black police organizations must take charge as entrepreneurial institutions in the black community, owned and operated by black scholars of law enforcement. These changes will end the brutality and murder of black people by police organizations. We want to stop this justifiable homicide. 9, we want blackology to be taught to all black people in prison. This will provide a job and career opportunities for those who have paid their debt to society and for those who are in prison to have a job while they are in prison. We want for blackological prisoners to be released and educated in blackology. We want and we will also want to give life experiences as credit towards acquiring undergraduate, master's, and universal blackological science doctorates in blackology. We also want black political prisoners to assist in the development of blackology as teachers and instructors in prison and receive pay. We also want to provide jobs and careers as Blacologists for those prisoners who have children. 10. We want to bring to trial the exploitation of the black mind and the practice of cultural genocide on black African culture by Eurological cultural monopoly of the United States educational system, which is a violation of the anti law that is against the monopoly of enterprise and a violation of human rights. We want this ethnic cleansing to stop. The urological studies have monopolized the education arena of the United States for over 400 years. We believe that education is a business and not a manner sent from God. We believe also that the implementation of the cultural science of Blackology is a way to stop the monopoly of urological studies in the Black African culture and its communities. We believe that cultural education, and specifically one that has been developed by Blackological scholars, will best prepare ourselves and children to build a culture that is evolving into its own right. The monopoly of urological studies is economically exploitive and culturally genocidal to black people. This is a human rights violation, specifically ethnic cleansing. 11. We want to establish cultural science of blackology as an enterprise within the United States and the world, owned, operated by black African people or black people, and funded by the governments in which it resides. We want the building of Blackology Institute, the University of Black African Culture. There is a university for every culture but black African culture. We believe that Blackology is a way to enterprise black African culture throughout the world. Blackology can provide educational, economic development as an evolutionary cultural science. Blackology will not be owned by public or private institutions, but subcontracted as a field of study and a cultural science. We believe that in the system of multiculturalism, Blackology must be owned, operated by black people and their scholars. We also believe that Blackology must be an institution of multicultural education in order for there to be a true multiculturalism. Otherwise, multiculturalism is a sham. Our Blackological analysis and conclusion. Dr. Huey P. Newton has provided that we should look at the 10-point program. He has proven that black scholars are capable of meeting the standards of urological studies with this theory of revolutionary intercommunalism. This concept could have only come from the mind of one who is from the legacy of the uncompromising struggle of black African culture and its people. The use of the term revolutionary intercommunalism was used in several ways. Although Dr. Huey P. Newton did not give any history on the origin of the words, revolutionary is a term that has been applied to the ideology as well as the intercommunalism. This theory is made up of two words. Let us break these two words down so that we are able to get a better understanding of what Dr. Huey P. Newton meant by the use of the theory revolutionary intercommunalism. Revolution is the root word of revolutionary. According to the World Book Encyclopedia, the term generally refers to a fundamental change in the character of a nation's government. Such a change may not be violent. Revolution may also occur in other areas, including culture, economic, social activities. People who work to replace an old system with a new one are called revolutionaries. Based on Dr. Huey P. Newton's neurological training, this is what he meant about revolutionary. Based on the African centered education, the word intercommunalism has the root word in communal, which is an African word that means you help me and I'll help you. We help each other. These two words are the basis for the elements of linguistics of Ebonics and Black African languages. They are a combination of urological language arts and the creative genius of Black African intellectual idiom. These terms were instinctively used in a Blacological way. This was revolutionary in its application. Dr. Newton used the theory with Black people being the major part of this revolutionary ideal. Dr. Newton did not see Black people as a second hand or backup solution to national or international justice. He always talked about Black people being the piece of the puzzle that was needed to bring about justice. They were applied in the manner that would give Black people the main concentration in this theory. Let us take a look at what and how he used the term in the book to die for the people.